Hello, peeps and creeps, and welcome to Fright Club. I'm Gav, he's Danny.
Hello.
And we are the Fright Club NI, and this is a brand new episode of Monday Night Frights. And tonight, we're talking about Saw. We're back, Danny.
Hey,
season three.
We're here for season 3.
We are. We've had a couple of weeks off, and now we're back. And fuck, it's great to be back, man.
Recharged, ready to go, ready to watch some more horror movies and shoot the shit, and just be super enthused about chatting about all our favorite and some new horror films.
About ganching.
Well. Ganch.
Ganching about horror movies.
Ganch.
I know.
You know, I'm super excited. I'm super pumped, and season 3 is just. We're just ready for it. We've got all our branding, and we're merchandising now.
We're all merched up.
We're ready. We're at a whole new level.
We are,
and yeah, it's great, and it's awesome to be wearing our own merchandise, which you can get over at the Fright Club NI website. By the way,
www.thefrightclubni.com. Click that store tab and order your T-shirt now. It is only shipping to UK and Ireland, but if you are outside of those countries, drop us a DM on our Twitter and we will try and sort something out for you. We don't have many left, so you need to hurry up and get in there because it's only going to be a limited run for now.
How many have we got left? I think as of recording this,
we only have 10 T-shirts left, so we've sold over half of our quantity, well over half of our quantities, and a few left, but you can still get them over at the website. And
very limited edition run at the moment.
Yeah.
But talking of limited edition runs,
Danny, I will throw over to you.
We have our latest limited edition run piece of merchandise, our very own Fright Club patch. That's right, a Fright Club patch. You can own one of 25 of these. There's only 25 of this first run made. So we will be posting these up on the Fright Club NI store soon with roughly about $6.50. And we may also do a t-shirt and patch combo deal as well. So keep an eye on the Fright Club NI website for the upcoming merchandise and combo deal as well.
And just as this episode airs, we will also be launching a free giveaway. Yes, we're doing that. And that's going to be exclusive to our Twitter, so you have to be over our Twitter at Fright Club NI. We'll be doing a free T-shirt giveaway and a patch giveaway to celebrate the launch of season 3. So we'll have all the information on our Twitter, so you need to go over there right now and check it out. Yeah. If you really want those T-shirts and patches, which are completely limited, by the way. Very limited run. Yeah, extremely limited. You'll never see them again.
As much as we would in the future, we will probably do more merch runs. For now, these are very limited edition items.
Yeah, we definitely will, but they're limited for the time being. So we'd appreciate all your support, and just shout out to everyone who's been supporting us so far and bought the T-shirts. We really appreciate all the love. So
our youngest fan, if anyone's following us on Instagram and Twitter, you'll have seen our youngest fan wearing one of the T-shirts. And I was asked by their parents, do we happen to have any plans in the future for baby grows? So I mean, maybe.
Well,
Fright Club baby grows.
I didn't expect to get.
If there's a demand for it, put it down in the comments below.
If there's a demand for baby grows, we'll do them. If there's any other merch, any other sort of ideas that you want to come up with, drop them in the comments below. We'll do our best to supply you with those demands.
What you like? I actually did have a custom product made for Fright Club, and again, if anyone is interested in seeing this from ourselves in the future, this is a one-off at the moment for myself. But if you would like to see some in the future, let us know. I got a Fright Club pop socket for the back of my phone, and you know what, it's actually the handiest thing, because I would sit and watch like YouTube videos and stuff when I'm in the office or whatever, and it's the handiest thing for like propping your phone up to watch videos.
Oh, and guess what, Danny? Do you know what YouTube videos you could watch?
You could watch
Monday Night Frights.
Your phone and watch some Monday Night Frights.
could.
So, you know, it's a very hand thing. And also, you know, when you're lying in bed at night and again watching YouTube or TikToks or whatever, or man, you gotta you'll know it. You took it right down here.
Yeah.
I'm doing a sales pitch, man. But yes, when you're enjoying your pornographic material at nighttime and you're lying back and you've got your phone in your hand like that, and then you drop it in your face, this stops it. Look at that. No more dropping your phone in your face while you're trying to. So just saying, this is a one-off at the moment, but if you would like to see Fright Club pop sockets, let us know in the comments.
Yes, please do.
That's my QVC moment over.
Fuck's sake, who are we like? We're like Del Boy. Fucking, where's my wee brown suitcase? Right, that's all the merchandise.
We're talking about Saw now. We're
proper horror fans. We're going to talk about proper horror films now. So we're talking about Saw, obviously.
Yes.
Seesaw at the sea.
Seesaw.
You've seen Saw at the sea.
She sells seesaws by the sea.
The sea saw shell. Shell saw.
Saw. Yes.
Whatever. We're very excited to be back. That's why we're a wee bit giddy. So
we're very giddy. But I mean, yeah, Saw is just, it's such a straight to the point name.
I know.
For a movie, which actually, to be honest, there's not that many Saws really in this film.
I've seen it.
Saws.
Yeah, I've seen it a few times, and I rewatched it recently. Obviously to prepare for this.
Yep.
It's not as gory or bloody or kind of shocking as I remember.
It picks up more, I think, from the second one. I think once it kind of starts becoming a franchise thing,
yeah,
then it definitely, like you can see in this film where they're kind of setting up stuff for the sequels. But in terms of like that gore factor, it's not really. Yes, it's grimy and it's a bit smelly looking, but it's not full on blood gore. At this point. But yeah, definitely it comes into play in the second film, and you kind of get the implications of it in this with like the reverse bear trap and some of the other things that you see in like Jigsaw's lair. You can kind of see what's going to come. But at this point, yeah, it's really, really basic stuff.
When did you first see it, and what was your initial thoughts?
I first seen it I think it was when it first came out on DVD. I was staying at a friend's house and their parents had rented it. Rented it from Extravision back in the day. Went to Extravision at the weekend and picked up 2 movies and some popcorn for a $5. And yeah, I remember watching it at their house and just being like, what? You know, it's so I forgot, even watching it again in preparation for this, I forgot how twisty-turny it was, and then remember kind of being like, oh yeah, and that character, and oh yeah, that character's from this, you know, was then in the sequels, and it was nice to kind of go back and visit again after having not watched it for so long, and I really like, as you say, it's not the goriest one, and it's not the most like eccentric in terms of like the kills and stuff, and you know the plot point of it is very kind of basic. Not pure, but you know, there's a reason for why Jigsaw's doing what he's doing. It's not just kind of turned into gore porn at this point. But yeah, I think my initial reaction to it when I first seen it was just like, what? Like this? What's got these people have to cut off their feet? What?
It was. I saw it on DVD too, probably the year after it was released or shortly after it was released on DVD, and it blew my mind. Like it was just unreal. Like it was very different to horror movies at the time, and I loved it. Like I'm not big into gore. Like I'm not a massive gore fan. I do like classics like Texas Chainsaw Massacre and stuff like that, but I'm not really into like real visceral in your face gore. So it wasn't that I liked. I know we were saying that there's not as much in this first one as there is in some of the sequels. It was the mystery box, man. I fucking love mystery box films. One of my favorite TV shows of all time is Lost, and it's based around the mystery box idea, and this film has kind of got that same idea in the sense that it opens up and it's a complete mystery even to the characters that are there, and you kind of find out as the film progresses, you find out through flashbacks.
I completely forgot that that's how the narrative kind of runs. I can always remember, you always kind of remember the main sort of like in the room stuff, but the flashback stuff for some reason you kind of just forget about until you're watching it again. Then you're like, oh yeah, this is how they kind of explain the narrative, because the flashbacks eventually catch up to where they're
Yeah.
at in the main, you know, at the time, the in the moment stuff that's going on with the two, with Adam and Lawrence in the room.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it's an interesting way that they've kind of chosen to tell the story.
Because
it works
sorry to
really
interrupt you
well.
there, Danny, but the flashbacks, they're not flashbacks from like years and years and years ago. They're like quite recent. Like literally, some
Like
of the flashbacks
hours
are
and some
only
of them.
like the night before, the day before, and then I assume a couple of weeks or maybe as far back as whenever you find out John's, the patient.
Yes.
I assume a couple of months back. It doesn't actually give you
No.
a specific date, but it's not that far anyway. So I'm glad they didn't go too far back and try to like tell this whole convoluted story about these characters' lives, because it's what's happening in the room is quite recent to what's been happening in John's life, who is the Jigsaw killer.
Well, sure, they had to leave all that out because they wouldn't have got their prequel that's coming out later this year. I want to say later this year, is it?
It's not even a prequel; it's a sequel.
Is
Are you
it?
talking about? Are you talking about Spiral?
Yeah.
Spiral's a sequel, man. Yeah.
Yeah, I
it is
thought John
indeed.
was dead, but see, I
Yeah.
only watched. I think I've watched the first.
You see,
I want to say 4.
yeah, me too.
I think, yeah.
So
it's either 3 or 4. I can't really remember. And the first 2 are the only 2 that I sort of committed to memory.
yeah, the first 2 are the best, and as far as I'm concerned, I think they're the best written of the whole franchise. 3's quite good too. I think I've watched 4, and when I was finished with 4, I was just like, I think I'm done with this, because it just got to the point where it was just getting very convoluted. And then, I'm definitely going to rewatch them now after watching the first one again recently. I want to rewatch it. I want to get right to the very end of the story. But there is a couple. I think there's at least one prequel in there.
Yeah.
Because obviously John does die throughout the course of this franchise, but this new one is a brand new film from the book of Saw. It's based in the world of Saw, but it's not actually going to be about Jigsaw as such. It's like a copycat. Now, obviously, I'll have some sort of link back to the original film. Now, I think I have theories about it a little bit. I've seen the trailer. I haven't really read into it, but I have a theory that maybe Chris Rock's character is potentially related to Detective Tapp, maybe his son, because there's a very there's a line that they kind of focus on in the trailer, and it says something like, "Do you remember about your father?" or something like that, and then it cuts to Samuel L. Jackson, who I suppose is supposed to be Chris Rock's father in the film. I'm not sure, but potentially could be talking about Detective Tapp from this film. So that's an interesting throwback. So it'll be cool to see where it goes. But yeah, it's definitely a sequel, man. So
Let's take there. Okay, well, I must actually, because I haven't watched it. As I said, I lost interest in Saw after the first couple that I watched. And I just, it's one of those things when they started releasing more sequels, I was like, nah, I'm not even going to bother. So even with this, it was a bit kind of like, meh, not too fussed. But I must go check it out. And as you say, haven't watched the first one again recently. I'm a bit tempted to go back and revisit them and just see how the story kind of plays out. Because I think Jigsaw as a character is fantastic. He's kind of got that sort of bad guy trying to do good sort of thing, but he's trying to do good by doing something really bad. Bit of a Thanos-y sort of, well, pre-Thanos. He is pre-Thanos, but yeah, he's trying to do something that he thinks is right. Well, it's just done in a very horrendous way.
Absolutely horrific way. Some of the fucking things he does is unreal. But I mean, later in the franchise, the traps would get very elaborate, and that's what the franchise would become about. Really, is the traps and the games. Whereas this one, as we said, is more about the kind of mystery thriller, which I adore, and I really love that kind of mystery box type film.
It's the twists and turns through it. Like I can, as I was watching, I was kind of remembering. I was being like, oh yeah, that happens and this happens and not yeah. And then I was trying to remember. I was like, would I have known that was going to happen when I originally? Now I remember the twist at the end. The first time I seen that, I was just like, whoa!
I know.
Because it is such a big moment in the film. But when you find out about like Zeb and stuff, and the different detectives, like Adam's actually like a paparazzi type
Yeah.
PI, and he's been hired by what you assume is either going to be Jigsaw's wife, but then it turns out, you know, and all that sort of stuff I'd forgotten about until I was watching it again and was just like, oh fuck, there's that twist, and then there's another twist here, and just a lot of nice twists and spirals.
Spirals, yes. But yeah, the twists are great, and this was kind of one of those movies that very, very important movie to the horror genre, because it, a bit like Scream in 1996, you know, it rejuvenated the horror genre. Scream kind of lit a fire under the arse of the slasher genre, and this kind of didn't invent torture porn, and it didn't invent that, you know, would you rather, what would you do to survive type horror, but it was certainly one of the films that kind of rejuvenated
Definitely
that subgenre.
life into it, yeah. Because then, I mean, following on from this, you get the likes of, you know, Hostel and Would You Rather, and yeah, you start to see a lot more of these kind of films that really kind of play on the idea of, as you say, torture porn, but also how many horrific ways can you kill people? What sort of different contraptions can you use to kill people, and or even how basic can you make a kill for somebody? You know, I'll never forget watching. I know it's not this film, but the second one with the addict. Who's got to reach up into the box, but the blades there, it's one of those boxes where you can go in but you can't come out, and the blades are going in, and I just remember sitting going, like, I think that's one of the few times I've just been sitting there being like, that is actually just proper turning me, because too real. I think that's one thing with the Saw movies and stuff as well, is it's very, very real. Like, I mean, if somebody had the time and the money to kind of, and the know-how to put into this, somebody could do it.
You could, yeah. I was getting, when I was rewatching it again, I was getting very kind of early David Fincher vibes from it. You know, a bit like Seven.
Okay. Yeah.
You know, if you watch Seven, it's kind of got that same tinge to it. It's got that same kind of
when
vibe.
They find Sloth with all the trees hanging up. The whole that's the thing. The thing with Seven and with this is, if these films had smell-o-vision, they'd be rotten. Like, the smell would be awful. Like, you just know when looking at it, and there's that. We love talking about hues.
We love the hue.
This has a lovely green hue over it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of kind of green over this film, and you get a wee bit of blue and stuff. I think in it, a lot of the stuff that's indicated to be like of use and helpful to people in these situations always seems to be highlighted in blue, like the key at the start that goes down the drain and stuff. And yeah, that kind of use of, but yeah, it generally looks slimy. Everything looks a bit kind of gross and slimy.
The bit where he has to put his hand in the toilet, and he's like,
yeah,
and then he realizes that he just needed to lift the
top of the cistern.
Yeah,
so goose.
I know. bloody Australians, eh? So talking about Australians, this was obviously directed by James Wan and co-written by James Wan and Leigh Whannell, who have now went on to become these massive, iconic modern horror figures. It was released in 2004 by Lionsgate. James and Leigh had written a script, but they couldn't sell it in their home country of Australia, so they were advised by their managers to come to LA and try and sell it in LA, which they did. They wrote a shorter version of the script and filmed it. It was actually a 7-minute short. I think they filmed for about $5,000 or something, and it was just the bear trap scene. So, and it was actually Leigh Whannell who played the character in the bear trap.
Yeah.
Which would, in the film, she's played by Shawnee Smith, but in the short it was played by Leigh Whannell, and they ended up selling the script with the caveat that James had to direct and that Leigh Whannell had to star in it. That was the only kind of conditions that they had. And the company, I think, that bought it were called Evolution Entertainment. And the producers that bought it created Twisted Pictures just so that they could market this as a horror film. So that's how good the script was, and how obviously exciting it was. It was very original. A lot of people hadn't read something like that before. And, you know, now it's kind of been done to death. That kind of idea has been done to death, but it was because of this movie that idea has been done to death. And back then in 2000, you know, probably would have been 2000, well, I think it was written in 2001. So probably 2002, they tried to sell it in LA, or 2003. And to read something like that back then, would have been awesome, and I'd love to be able to just read original scripts.
Yeah.
Obviously before they they get made into movies, but it must have been very exciting for the producers.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely. I imagine it probably was kind of a breakaway. Like, yes, this film kind of does have its kind of iconic characters in Jigsaw and Billy the Puppet, the ones that have immediately become a part of that kind of horror
Lore,
icons.
yeah.
But
Iconography.
it's yeah, exactly, a nice bit of iconography. But they do like. I feel like it definitely is a breakaway from like slasher or zombies or a typical monster type of thing. This is a character again who feels just in his actions, and isn't your typical horror monster character because he's just an ordinary man who's actually dying, and he's just trying
Yeah.
to teach people to live their lives
I,
more.
I love that. Just when I mentioned about Fincher, the fact that they call him the Jigsaw Killer, just kind of, I was like, oh, Zodiac Killer. You know, it kind of, he's kind of based on those classic serial killers from decades ago. You know that they would have been given a name, so he's kind of based on that. And the fact that he leaves his sort of calling card where he cuts the jigsaw piece in, and he always leaves a tape or some sort of something to do with him. Um, that's what makes him different from just being a completely random horror uh, character, like like your slasher killers and those kind of monsters, because he is real, and but he's a dying man, and he wants to try to, uh, with the little time that he's got left, he wants to try to see what humans will do or what they are prepared to do to stay alive. Which is quite it's quite sick, but yeah, it's good, man. It's a really good plot.
It's such a good plot, and as you say, it's kind of unfortunate that it's something that kind of gets lost as the series progresses because it just becomes a boy. And again, they do try to write it in to explain that it's not necessarily Jigsaw anymore that's in control. It's his proteges or whoever's trying to take up the mantle, or has now just made it about killing rather than trying to make people survive. It's not necessarily about, he doesn't really get any satisfaction out of the fact that the person's died. He would probably rather see that they live, they persevere through whatever it is that they had an issue, their issues. I think it's still a bit extreme. I mean, the guy who like is self-harming, he makes him walk through fucking barbed wire. I'm like, send him to council, and there's no need to fucking make him walk through barbed wire, you dick.
Exactly. Fuck's sake, man. That's brutal. You don't. Well, you don't. You don't really see. You don't really see anything. You see him struggling.
You see him struggle, and you see him like lying on the barbed wire, but you never actually see like wrists. So it's not as it is not really until the second one that we get that gore detail. It's all just kind of implied. I think the goriest moment in this is probably when Lawrence takes his foot off. Is probably the most gore you see in the film.
He saws his foot off, Danny.
Saws
gotta get that.
Off.
Gotta get the saw in there.
Oh, he said the title of the movie.
Talking about the cast, Cary Elwes as Lawrence Gordon. Cary Elwes has been, bit of an '80s legend from my childhood anyway. Princess Bride, obviously he was in, and he's been in loads of things. Robin Hood Men in Tights, he was in. Bit of a change of pace for him. Maybe not a change of pace, but change of genre. I wouldn't exactly say he was a horror person, but it just goes to show that the script must have been very good for him to kind of do something like this. And as you say, that scene's very it's quite graphic, or it certainly implies that it's very graphic anyway. So, but he's great. Like we both love Cary Elwes. Like
100%.
And then as Adam, as Leigh Whannell. That was the caveat. He had to star in it. Very good performance as well.
Fantastic performance.
I was kind of wondering, is he trying to put on an American accent, or because there's some parts of his accent that's pretty good American, and then some of his Australian slips out. So I wasn't sure if he was maybe doing a bit of a hybrid, but I thought he was great anyway.
Yeah, I really like his performance. I like how he's kind of like, you can tell he's still kind of immature, and he's maybe not long out of university or whatever, and he just the way he's kind of taking the whole situation, but he's also playing the game as well. He doesn't immediately let on to Larry that he's been following him and taking photos and stuff, and Yeah, I like the character dynamic in this. I like that they're kind of trying to help each other, but also playing against each other because they don't fully trust each other. But at the same time, I'm like, if you should stop fucking around, you just would have got out of this a lot sooner, because they end up running out of time because they literally spend the whole time like reminiscing with each other or shouting at each other.
I know.
If they just have fucked up, they could have done a lot of the shit sooner.
I know. Exactly, man. Fucking actors for you. Just they love to hear the sound of their own voice. But then the film had only been like 20 minutes long, so you know you have to. And we probably would have got more flashbacks, which is not always the best thing.
No.
But the rest of the cast, Danny Glover as Detective Tapp.
Again, someone else who I'd forgotten was in it, and then he came on, and I was like, "Oh fuck, Danny Glover, love me some Glover." All the Glovers, Danny Glover,
Donald
Glover.
Who else is in it? Tobin Bell obviously plays John, aka the Jigsaw Killer, who's not in it a lot. You only see him in the bed once, and then at the very end when he stands up in that amazing reveal. So, and obviously you hear his voice throughout it, which has become absolutely iconic in horror. And then you also have who else do you have in it? Michael Emerson from Lost plays Zep. He's creepy in it. Like he's
so, but again, he does it so well. He kind of has those kind of staring eyes and stuff, and he holds himself in such a way that really lends well to those characters. And as you say, like I love him in Lost as well. And he's just fantastic actor. And then the twist with him as well. It's like fuck,
because you just think he's like his assistant or something, and then you find out obviously that he's part of the game too. He's been forced to do this, and
he's been poisoned, and Jigsaw has the only antidote. Crazy.
That old chestnut. That old go-to trope. And then you have Ken Long as well, who plays Detective Singh. Detective Singh. He's great. He was in Lost too, but he's been in loads of TV shows over the years. He's a really overlooked actor. I think he's fantastic in everything he's in.
He's really good. Always puts in a really good performance. And again, his sort of his death actually maybe he's a wee bit kind of gory as well. He ends up getting his head basically blasted off.
Yeah, you don't actually see anything. You see lots of blood, and then you see a couple of still photographs afterwards, which is actually interesting. I was reading a wee bit about this before we started doing this, and the reason why so many photographs is in it was by accident. And you know the way there's lots of like security footage in it, like CCTV footage, that was put in because whenever James Wan and his editor was editing the final footage, there was so many shots that they didn't get. Like it was they were unfinished shots, so they had to kind of piece them together with these little security footage shots and still photographs. So anytime you see that, that's because the scene wasn't.
So those are just finished. Continuity photos that they've added.
Basically, they were basically continuity photos that they put in, and they obviously made it look as if it was part of the snapshot. And funny enough, because afterwards, that was something that you would see a lot in horror movies and crime movies and stuff. Afterwards, you would see loads of that kind of like stitching in security and footage and photographs and stuff in between scenes. But that was completely because it was necessary it was a fix. Yeah, it was a quick fix. And it was necessary to do it because they had unfinished footage that they couldn't use really. So very interesting. Sometimes happy accidents work out for the best.
Yeah, pretty good. I did not realize, because even when I was watching, I was like, that's an interesting, because it kind of that moment when he's running down the hallway and gets head blasted at, and then it kind of got Donald Glover sort of like running after Danny Glover. Danny Glover? Donald Glover. Danny Glover?
Danny Glover. You're fucking
confused now. But it's when he kind of like runs out and reaches, but then it goes black and white and then cuts away. And I just remember at the time thinking, that's interesting. That's an interesting way to kind of transition it.
Yeah, that's why. That was because they didn't have the footage. And there's another scene, which is a very strange transition where I can't remember the actual scene, but it transitions downwards into like a moving car, and it's very weird, and it looks a little bit animated. So I'm guessing that there was something there that they had to fix as well. But yeah, it's very well done. the fixes are very well done, and it didn't hinder the end product.
No.
What was the budget of the movie, Danny? Can you take a guess? 2004. It was a fairly low budget movie.
I don't know. Tell me.
James Wan and Leigh Whannell were unknown. This was their first big film. 1.2 million. Not bad. Not bad.
Yeah. That short must have impressed.
Yeah. Apparently, it was about 700 grand was the shooting budget. So the rest of it obviously was for bits and bobs and actors' payments and all that sort of stuff. But yeah, 1.2 million. It made 104 million. So it was one of the films that kind of launched a lot of indie horror films into the mainstream. It helped. I suppose this probably helped a lot of producers to give indie horror film
give them
a chance, filmmakers a chance, and say, "Fuck, this could be another Saw. This could be one of these ones." It was heavily influenced by Blair Witch Project. James Wan and Leigh Whannell were big fans of that, and they wanted to make something self-contained. They wanted to make something on a low budget that they had a lot of control of. They were big fans of Blair Witch, so they wanted to kind of have that sort of feeling. Originally, the script, I don't know if this was ever a script written, but the original idea was to set it in an elevator. And it was just going to be two people in an elevator, and they were going to use a lot of security footage. So found footage type-esque. And then I don't know at what stage they decided not to do that, but I'm kind of glad they didn't.
Nah, but we've seen films like that since then anyway. What's that one with the devil?
Aye. I was going to say, Shyamalan's The Devil, that's great. That's fucking great.
So we've seen, films and elevators and stuff before. But yeah, you can definitely see the influence from Blair Witch. And as you say, from this point on, you get a lot of that kind of found CCTV footage and camera foot, or like handheld camera footage and photographs and stuff used in horror, even if it's not trying to be like a documentary style. It still kind of has that aspect of found footage within it. But definitely, Blair Witch has a very clear impact, I think, across the horror genre, which obviously then influenced Saw, and then Saw went on to influence gore porn, basically, from that point. But just you saying about, they originally thought about doing it in like as a one place sort of set. I was thinking as I was watching it, it would make a fantastic stage play.
Yeah.
It would very easily transition to a stage play because of the way that it just takes place in that grimy little bathroom.
I don't think there's ever been a Saw stage play.
Saw the musical.
So, I
have to cut my foot off.
Man, that'd be awesome. That would be a class. It would be a good stage play.
Yeah, I would definitely. I would go see it.
I would definitely go see it.
Play, and it definitely, I think, it would lend itself quite well. And even the wee flashback moments, just dim the lights down, focus light on the actors, act out the flashbacks, and then light it back up again to your full dirty stinking bathroom.
I know, full of shit and semen and
blood and
guts and
then one dead actor in the middle of the stage.
I know, dead. That was the only set that they built, and it's fucking awesome. What a cool set, man! Like, that's so dirty. Like,
one of my favorite moments in the film is when the detectives find Jigsaw's like lair, and there's the wee diorama of the bathroom. And it's just like, even that there, the thought that Jigsaw's taken into setting this whole thing up, and the dolls laying, and it's kind of the first clue that the dead body in the center of the room is maybe a bit more integral than we first expected to be. But yeah, I love that. I love the thought and the detail that has kind of gone into the set, as well as the story that is being told within Jigsaw's mind and what he's up to with his victims.
Another thing from the original script was, apparently whenever they were putting the film together, they didn't really have an idea of Jigsaw being a character, like an actual integral part of the finished story. But apparently whenever Leigh Whannell when he was young, but just before he was writing this, or around the time he was writing the script, he was getting like really bad migraines, so he went to the doctor because he thought he had a brain tumor. and he was convinced he had a brain tumor, and he was like, I need to get the tests done and scans or whatever. So this idea came to him that what would happen if you found out you had a brain tumor and you only had, you know, a month or two to live or whatever.
His thought was, I'm a kill people.
Yeah. No, but I think it was more obviously what would happen, what would you do? How would you accept that news, and how would you continue your life? And then obviously when they went back to writing, he kind of used that idea and kind of put it into the story, and thought, oh, fuck, that'd be cool if, you know, that this guy has a motive rather than just being a crazy killer. He gave this guy a bit of a motive to do these traps, and obviously, you know, that's what makes the film better in the long run, because it does give him a bit of a motive. They lose that a little bit as the franchise grows, but it's a good twist.
It's a good twist, and as you say, it's good motivation for that character. But the fact that they can then use it to motivate other characters, because we see Amanda, who's the only survivor, you know, the only Jigsaw survivor at that particular point in the film. We see then that she actually then aspires to be like Jigsaw, and the fact that he's almost become not like a messiah, but you know, he's become this character to aspire to, because he's made her realize that life is worth living. And she obviously becomes the protege from the second film on.
He's like a cult leader, and that, you know, it's like that's how you get a following, is you have to put someone through a lot of pain first, so they realize the difference, you know, and how much they want to be alive, and then they kind of follow in the footsteps.
Yeah,
Saw 2 is great as well.
Yeah,
I love Saw 2.
I love it. It's so much more the kind of like funhouse aspect of it.
Aye.
Yeah, it's really good. Must watch that again soon. I haven't watched it in a while.
I know. I'm definitely going to rewatch it soon. I'll probably rewatch it before we do any more next season, because I just remember. I remember the fact that there's a group of them, isn't there? And they go into a room and they have to all kind of.
It's a different. Each room kind of corresponds to their own individual issue, and it's as I said, the one that really sticks in my mind is that box. You've got to reach up in the box, and I think are they all drug addicts? Is there not like a pit of needles for?
There's cause I definitely remember the needles.
There's a pit of needles. There's the box. Somebody ends up having to just end up getting like razor blades, cut with razor blades like all over or something.
I can't really remember the other ones.
There's that many.
Is there a scene where Amanda jumps out of the bath and she's wearing the pig's mask? Or is that in the third one?
I think that is that not a flashback in one of the later ones, but it turns out that it's actually from the first one, and she's jumped out of Adam's bath. Is that not? Is there not something to do with she's actually involved with the kidnappings in the first film?
Right. Okay.
But we don't find out until.
Is she the one that was wearing the pig's mask then?
Yeah, I think is it not her?
Right. Okay. I can't remember. I have to rewatch them.
There's that. It kind of a lot of them start to kind of overlap. I think in terms of narrative, like it turns out such and such been helping such and such the whole time, and obviously this film establishes that whole idea of who's helping who, and should we believe the immediate, like what's immediately happening, sort of thing. But yeah, I'm near sure that Amanda is Pighead, is the Pighead. But I mean, yeah, there's so many. I get the iconicness of Jigsaw and of that pig mask and of Billy the Puppet have just become such a mainstay in horror now.
Aye, definitely. Another thing that I think this movie did was kind of help to launch the whole twist ending to movies. It wasn't the first, obviously. There's loads before. I mean, Sixth Sense was one of the first really that made it a big thing.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of twists in the movie and little turns and red herrings that they throw out at you, and then they turn it around. But that big twist ending, like, let's just talk about that ending, because
100%.
I got goosebumps watching it again when I watched it this morning.
Yeah,
I knew it was coming.
The music starts. The music starts off, and the music that kind of becomes like a main thing with Saw is that ba ba bum ba ba bum ba ba bum, and just when you hear that, you immediately go fucking Saw. That's Saw. But it's the only time we hear it in this film, in the first film.
Yeah.
And then him standing, rising up and pulling that thick, like, bullet wound from his head. Oh, beautiful.
It kind of makes me think, do you think he was listening, or do you think he was just like having a wee snoozle
What do we
during it
do?
all?
That's what you think.
He's
the
like,
whole time,
fuck,
'cause
I have to wake it up now at 6 o'clock.
when he's getting shot, when they're getting shot during the film, we find out then later that it's actually him who's got the remote that controls it. So you'd think, obviously, whoever's getting shot probably isn't paying attention because they're getting shot, but the other person will look over and see like his wee hand going like.
Well, he's got a gun in one hand and he's got the tape recorder.
So he's maybe got like hitting in his palm of the gun or something.
But whenever they take the tape recorder out of his hand, because obviously they have to sort of fish that out, I'm assuming it's in that. Maybe. I don't know. I didn't really look carefully.
That and just thinking it's like he's bound to have been sitting there to be like,
I know.
Unobservant bastards.
And it sort of makes you think as well, whenever they're listening to the tape recorders at the start, is he like doing a wee ventriloquist thing? Instead of the tape recorder, it's actually him as he's just lying there.
I mean, we know he can play. We know that he likes playing with dummies through Billy. So who knows? Maybe is there a ventriloquist
He loves playing with Billy.
He loves playing with his wee dummy.
He loves the puppets. So Tobin Bell, brilliant. Doesn't get much screen time in this. No. His voice is iconic. The sound of it, the demeanor, the cadence, everything about it has now become iconic. I want to play a game. Like that's so iconic now.
People just know, like you say that to somebody and they're just like, it just immediately makes people think of that. Yeah. Makes them think of Billy and Jigsaw.
I know. And this film lays the groundwork obviously for that franchise. They didn't know back then, but Billy the Puppet as well. I thought it was a bit I thought it was a wee bit naff, to be honest with you, when he comes out in his wee bike at the end and then he starts talking. It's kind of like, fucking hell, like that's maybe going a wee bit over the top, but still iconic, and just great ending. The start's great, the end's great, and everything in between is very good for the most part. But even that start, whenever, they waking up and he's in the bath and he's like, what the fuck's going on? Where am I? You're just constantly thinking, what the fuck's going on? And it's that thing that has you on the edge of your seat. And then whenever you hear the other guy speaking and they turn the lights on and then you see the dead body, it's like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
Like, unreal.
It's just so much. There's so many questions, and it just slowly starts to unravel. And just you think you've got one answer, something else comes along to fuck that up. And just really, really good. And again, it's one of those ones where yes, there's a lot of setup for sequels and stuff, but if they just left it at that, I'd have been like, sweet, great movie.
It definitely works just perfect as a standalone movie. And the fact that it's kind of ambiguous at the end, you have, obviously Laurie chops his foot off and he gets to crawl up. He gets to crawl away, but you don't know how far he gets. And then Adam's still chained to the fucking thing. And then whenever John gets up, he just closes the door on him. So you don't really find out. I think you find a wee bit more out in the sequels. But just if you're right, if they had ended it there, it works really well as a standalone movie. But the red herrings in this is, I think, what kind of makes it keep going and keep going and keep going. You're constantly asking what's going to happen next. Where's this going? A couple of things as well. A couple of the big things that happen in this is obviously the dead body is one of the first ones. Then you have that part where they notice the tape recorder as another major beat. And then whenever they discover in the cistern, they discover the two saws.
Yep. And
you're just like, fuck, where's this going? And then I think it's Laurie that says he wants us to cut. He doesn't want us to cut the chains. He wants us to cut our feet off. And you're just like, who?
Yep. Here we go.
Limbs flying everywhere.
The thing with the gun and the bullet and all, and the cigarette, and the bit is the bit when Larry's like, just play along with me here, and gets Adam to play dead.
Aye.
It's that
Adam does the old
dead. And you're just like,
Coley.
Of course he's not going to fall for that. And I mean, obviously you find out later that Jigsaw's been sitting there watching. He's probably just sitting going, what dick? Like, look, we dead Jigsaw, just fucking dickhead.
I know. What if Jigsaw had to fart or something? Like, he had to hold in farts there for a good couple of hours.
Dead bodies fart, Gav.
True.
That's
true.
You know, maybe it's only a recently dead body. If he'd let out a wee, they'd be like, "Oh no, he's going into rigor mortis."
He's passing gas. It's all right. But yeah, true. Yeah. So we have the saws. Then we have obviously the flashbacks, which we see, and you assume that they're telling each other what we're seeing.
Yeah.
And then you have the part where there's a two-way mirror, so they know they're being watched. So that opens up a lot of different things as well. And then you have the part where they finally see the X. X marks the spot, which opens up the whole cigarette part because they find the little box. What is it? He puts the cigarette. He dips it in his blood, doesn't he? And then he pretends he's going to give it to Adam.
Dips in the blood,
the poisoned blood. And he does the whole fucking. It's great, fucking great acting. Like
it's just such a ridiculous moment. And then he plays dead on the ground, and then he gets fucking shocked. But even then, Larry's like, "What the fuck? Like, what are you playing for?" And he's like, "I'm not playing." Like, electrocuted here. But man, it just it's those moments really, and the flashbacks are good and all, and you obviously get like a lot of like motivation and a lot of kind of context and stuff to how these characters know each other and what's going on with Jigsaw, because Larry's been blamed for the murders, but now his daughter and wife are like being held kidnapped, and is Larry actually a bad guy when he, that there's a lot to it. But to be honest, see if they'd just done it like in that room, I'd have been happy. I would have been happy with just what was going on in that room the whole time. Like, yes, I understand the need for the other stuff, but
they need to beef out to 90 minutes, man. There's only so much. They probably could have done about 45 minutes in that room, maximum maybe. That actually is making me think of a film called Exam. Have you ever seen Exam?
No.
It's not a horror film, but it's. Check it out. Anyone watching this, check it out. It's for the life of me, I can't remember the guy who wrote and directed it, but it was a writer-director, and very cleverly written script. It's essentially about all these people that are invited to take an exam. It's a mysterious thing. They don't know what it's for. It's just a really high-level company that are inviting them to do this. But it's blank paper, and they have to just figure it out. So it's one of those sort of mystery box. What the fuck, Oh, what did he say? Did he say this? What did he mean by that? Oh, this is that. It's like a sort of treasure hunt type thing where you have to go back to the start and you follow little things that you think is insignificant, and then you find out that it's important. So I think that film was definitely influenced by Saw as well, even though it's not a horror film. But and then, did you ever see the movie The Cube?
I've never seen The Cube, but I was going to say about there's that recent one now, the Netflix original Escape Room, which obviously is playing on the whole popularism of escape rooms, but with a kind of Saw element to it.
Yeah, I think there's a few of those escape room films now, and that's a massive thing now, isn't it? Escape room. And Cube's quite good. Cube's a bit like the second Saw, where they have to go to different rooms, only it's a cube, and they have to like climb up into different parts of this cube.
It's strange. There's quite a lot of stuff that's kind of played off that. I think there was even a Star Wars Clone Wars episode that did a cube sort of scenario as well. So it's definitely one of those ideas. I think people love the idea of people having to go in and be challenged to get out of whatever situation it is they're placed in. Because I mean, even look at Crystal Maze and all. I mean, there's game shows based on the idea.
I don't remember any part in Crystal Maze where you might die though.
Well, I mean, you never know.
Imagine here, get the crystal or you're dead.
Get the crystal or you'll die.
Oh damn! Fucking Richard O'Brien being like, death. He's a weird boy, so maybe it was. If it was up to him.
His original plan, and then the were like, scale it back, scale it back.
I don't think people would want to watch that.
Some people online might. Yeah,
I know. So, you were saying one of your favorite parts earlier. One of my favorite parts, obviously, the bear trap's very iconic now as well. And Shawnee Smith, who plays Amanda, she was in the remake of The Blob, and she obviously was in Saw, and she's in Saw 2, and she definitely pops up later, doesn't she?
I think she pops up later, because it turns out into that she's John's protege, and I can't remember where she makes it up to in the series.
Yeah,
I can't remember if she makes it past 2 or not.
She doesn't have much screen time in this either, but very, very good performance, and she's great. Like the Blob's great. I love the Blob.
I must actually watch the Blob. It's
great,
on my
man.
list.
It's great, and one of my favorite parts of the whole this whole movie was kind of a funny moment, which probably wasn't supposed to be funny. Was whenever they're at Jigsaw's lair and they're waiting, Danny Glover and Ken Lung's waiting. They're all like, "Oh, here he comes up the elevator." And Danny's like, "Oh no, we'll hide and see what he's going to do." And the other guy's like, "No, we can get him." And so they eventually go and hide anyway. And the elevator opens, and the guy looks like he's fucking coming out to fight a boxing fight. Yep. He's wearing like the
big satin cloak.
The big satin black with the red trim and all. And he's like, "Oh, here we go, fucking fighting for the heavyweight title here." What the fuck was that?
It's when he's. It's when he comes. It's when Zeb comes after the wee girl, and the mum walks in the room, and he's just got like a grey blanket on, and he's just like,
what was that? I know it's. I mean, obviously, it's because they don't want to show his face to keep the mystique to the audience, but it's just like, if he was going in there alone, why the fuck would he be walking in like a Evander Holyfield? Do you know, he wouldn't be wearing that fucking.
Oh, I'm so ready to make some more traps.
Exactly.
I'm gonna get him good.
Hilarious. But whenever he came through, I was kind of, because it's been a while since I'd watched it, and I was thinking, oh, he's wearing this because he knows they're here, so he's gonna stop and he's gonna play a tape, because I couldn't remember exactly how that scene played out. But no, he didn't realize they were there, and he ran away, and he had that fucking blade as well. He was like Ezio Auditore from Assassin's Creed. He fucking, the wee blade comes out and he slices your man's throat. Fuck's sake, like that was hilarious, man. I was actually fully laughing. And then obviously we get the chase scene, him. Yes. He runs away, and then Detective Singh shoots him. Well, we think he shot him. And it was weird. It was a very weird, that was a weird scene to me. Because he shoots him, but then he gets back up, and you're kind of like, well, did he shoot him or did he not shoot him? What? Did he or what? Yeah. It's a weird scene.
See, I can remember in 2 that John is being cared for by Amanda, and I can't remember if it's just because of his cancer or if because he's been inflicted
he was shot.
Wounds.
Yeah. I can't remember either.
It's been that long that I can't actually mind. I think it maybe it's just because the cancers or the tumors like get into his brain. But yeah, we must watch the other ones. We must get back up to date with our Saw lore. Kiss from a Rose.
Fuck. That's not even a seal, that's a fucking seagull. I don't know. It's a merman.
Fucking merman.
Seashell. The seashell, it's also Sawshell. Fucking hell. Anyway, that's Saw. We've talked about Saw. Fucking brilliant movie. I love it. Yeah. I watched it when it first came out on DVD, but I remember watching it with Janine. Whenever it wasn't that long after we got together, and we watched the first couple of Saw movies. I think there was only 4 at that time, maybe 3 or 4, and she, God love her, she watched them with me. Like,
yeah.
But she,
I take it.
She hates. She fucking hates gore and all that. She likes the sort of mystery behind it all. They're trying to find out who's what and kind of the games and all. She hates gore and shit. And definitely the second and third one she was really struggling with.
Yeah. Oh, I'd say so. I think anybody who is not into gore and that this ain't the movies for them. Like as we said, the first one's a bit of a psychological murder mystery thriller with a bit of gore thrown in. But after that, no, it's all out blood, guts, and needles.
Shit and
needles. What's the one? You know what? Just before we go, what's the one with? I remember reading about. There's one with a water tank. Someone's being tortured, and it's like a tank of water that's slowly filling up. And I remember reading about how they filmed that, where you're only allowed to submerge actors for so long, but to get that effect, they basically had the tank in front of the actor.
I like double glass.
Double glassed it, yeah. And I just remember reading about that. And then there's another one with the angel wings trap, and I watched a video on how that was made and stuff. I think it might be number 3. where they do the angel wings trap, and they had like they had like the prosthetic ribs and stuff in behind, like glued onto the back of the actor, so when it pulled away, all the like sinewy rubbery bits would pull away from the actor, and it would have the wing effect. You know what, the behind the scenes features for these films are fantastic, and
amazing.
People should watch them, because as the traps and stuff become more elaborate, so do the effects that go into making them. And some of the teams behind the follow-ups to these films do some cracking work for the effects, and it sticks. I think Saw sticks with you because of how imaginative they get with the kills.
Sorry, that made me laugh.
Star sticks with you.
Sticks with you.
Star. But yeah, so that's all I have to say about that.
I think unfairly and unjustly, sometimes this genre doesn't get the recognition it deserves, and we all know that as horror fans, especially sleazy subgenres like the torture porn, if you want to call it torture porn. I hate that fucking phrase, but stuff that's kind of gory definitely doesn't get the recognition it deserves. But the amount of art and passion that goes into it is unreal. And like, if you go on to YouTube, or if you buy the DVDs or Blu-rays and you watch the behind the scenes featurettes about how some of these traps are put together and the people that work on them and how they do that, it's magic, man. It's fucking brilliant.
So it's incredible. And these people obviously have to go and study like biological makeup and mechanism, they've
engineering and all that sort of stuff.
Yeah, how would this work? How would this be able to pull someone's jaw apart in such a way that it works as a reverse bear trap? I think it takes a very special mind to think of these things, but also a very clever mind to do it. So,
yeah, definitely.
Yeah, 100% props to the guys that make that magic happen, and also safely. Because could you imagine if something like that went wrong? It's incredible, absolutely incredible.
Props to James Wan for directing this film. Props to Leigh Whannell for co-writing it.
Yeah,
and just what a team they are. I will say, I do obviously I love Leigh Whannell. We spoke about him during the Invisible Man episode.
Yes.
Big fan of his work. James Wan, I do enjoy his movies. I appreciate that he's a fantastically talented director. Not super fussed on potentially his style some of the times, but Saw, you can't say anything bad about Saw in terms of how iconic it is and the influence it's had on the genre.
Oh yeah.
Oh well, that's our Saw episode, guys. It was you that voted for this. We put up 4 films on our Twitter poll. Saw was one of them. Jaws was one of them as well. I was kind of secretly wanted to talk about Jaws because it's one of my favorite movies ever.
Happily talk about Jaws, man. I absolutely love Jaws, and there's still time.
We can still do Jaws. We might do it this season. We'll see.
Drop it this season.
We've got a list, but yeah, we could add Jaws to the list.
We can add Jaws, but the people spoke, and this is what you wanted.
What were the other 2 films?
It was Jaws,
Final Destination,
Creep, and Final Destination.
And Creep 2014.
Again, I would have done Creep as well. I really enjoy Creep. I think Creep, again, a found-footage based film that I thought was fantastic. Not so much the sequel. But I would gladly talk about any of those films that we put up. But for our season 3, episode 1, we went with your guys' choice. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Twitter followers. We hope you enjoyed this episode. Please leave comments in the comment section below. And as always, you know what you got to do.
Are you?
You got to hit that subscribe button.
Like, comment, subscribe,
hit
share, hit the bell,
notifications.
It's over there.
It's up here, I think, down here. I don't know. It's about there somewhere. Fucking open your eyes and look. But hit that subscribe button. Thanks very much for following us on Twitter and for voting for Saw, because we enjoyed rewatching it and we enjoyed talking about it. So thanks very much for all your love and support so far, guys. www.thefrightclubni.com. Buy the t-shirt. Big shout out to all the guys that have already bought the t-shirt, and we will have the Fright Club patch up soon enough on our store. In fact, it probably should be live now. So once you finish watching this, head over to the website and buy a t-shirt and a patch. And take care. Stay safe. We'll see you next week. All the best, guys. Cheers.
Bye.